about today. It's been a long time since it feels like a long time since we've been able to get together and talk. My life has been so busy; it's been kind of crazy. I haven't been able to really sit around and do some of the research and stuff that we wanted to do. So, man, I'm just excited to sit down with you today and everybody else.
Yeah,
So,
and
we can get into whatever you want to talk about.
this episode is going to be a little bit off the cuff, and if you want to participate in this conversation, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm interested to get other people's opinions on this, because it's kind of a controversial topic.
Here we go. Here we go.
And the thing we're going to be talking about today is we hear a lot about Gen Z's work ethic.
Okay.
All right. And a lot of people complaining from Gen Z, as well as people complaining about Gen Z's work ethic. All right. And I think that there is a fundamental shift that we didn't recognize back in, like, it probably started 60, 70 years ago. And my personal opinion is I think we need to listen a little bit more to Gen Z in the way that they feel about it, and also recognize what we put up with a lot of times.
All right, so do me a favor. What's the generation? What year to what year is Gen Z technically?
Let's figure that out.
Yeah, look it up real quick.
Let's just. I don't want to guess on this.
So, and then I want you to look up what we technically. All right, so anybody born from 97 to 2013 is Gen Z.
Yep.
And that's our current generation, right?
Yep.
I think we're probably millennials technically.
I think so.
But we're right on that weird. I heard something.
81 to 96. I definitely fall into that.
Yeah. See, I'm right there on the. I was in 82, so I fall right in that weird age where I've heard something about how millennials are, especially cusp millennials like me. That we're kind of like this weird forgotten generation. Anyways, We'll get into that some other time. All right, so we're technically millennials, and then there's the Gen Zers. All right, so you're asking me the question of that Gen Z is just they're the not listen to, everybody belittles generation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's easy.
So you're telling me you think that they're bullied?
No, I don't think
Gen Z's bullied.
I think there's a lot of Gen Z people out there that are complaining that are completely in the wrong. But I also think that there is a significant amount of work ethic that we put onto the generation. And then if I look back on it, maybe I was mistreated as a worker and just dealt with it because that's what you did. Okay? And the Gen Z, in my experience with Gen Z, and so this is very narrow scope, they didn't get jobs when they were 14, 15, and 16. All right.
They didn't even get driver's license, dude.
I know. They didn't even get driver's, and that's
they didn't want to drive.
And that is a huge problem. But at the same time, what is it that we're dealing with is millennials are told by us, or Gen Z is told by us, this is how work operates. All right. Then they don't have a job, and we send them to college, and then they get out of college, and this idea of work in their head is not what they've been promised. They were told that, hey, we go to school, we get a college degree, we get out, and we make a living. And I don't know that is a common story. Like, I don't know that if you get out of college, you're going to be making enough money by yourself to live even comfortably.
It depends on where you live. It depends on what job you. There's a lot of factors there. But yeah, I think a major part of it is you're not. Okay, so if you if you were one of these Gen Zers that you're talking about that
Mm-hmm.
went to high school, went to college, got this 4-year degree. Let's just say it's from like just random school, okay? Just a
Yeah.
decent school, okay? And they got a little bit of scholarship money. They come out $80,000 in debt,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they have zero work experience,
Yep.
right? So, are you telling me as an employer,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hire one of these people in mid to upper management with zero work experience, fresh out of school, making the money that they think they should make?
No, I'm not.
All right, so okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now, here's the deal.
Yeah.
So then it's this massive misconception that Gen Zers have that they should immediately get out of college making what a person that has been in the workforce for 10 years is.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that, though. And this is the big thing that I think a lot of people miss, and this is one thing that agitates me about the older generation, is you push this idea of family being the ultimate value, and we want to do all these things for the benefit of our family, but we've created a structure in the past 70 years where you don't have the income with a single person in the household to have that reality. Okay? So we're pushing for more family time, but we're also requiring both people in the house to work. So when people talk about the fact that, I used to work, 50 hours in the week, well, your wife was at home taking care of the kids. Now we're sending kids to daycare, right? So when people say 40-hour work week now, that what they actually means an 80-hour work week, because it's two people.
I mean, if you're just strictly talking about income, then yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we have a structure designed around a 2-income household. Mm-hmm. Our entire economy is based around a 2-income household, right? So you get out of college, you're making. Let's say you get out of college, and let's say you make $40,000 a year, right? And you get out, and you have this expectation. Now, the expectation is wrong. Like, I think they've been told wrong. I don't know where they got the idea, but they have this expectation that they should live like their parents. Okay? And that's not possible.
What are you trying to say here? Like, I'm really trying to figure out exactly where you're getting at. Like, what are you saying about Gen Z? You're saying that they've gotten a bad hand, that millennials, because I know it's not millennials, because let me tell you something about millennials and Gen Zers, right? Millennials are like the big brothers to Gen Zers. Yeah. It's like we have been here, we've done this, we paved this road. Hey, guess what? We were lied to by this generation too, saying that, oh, you go out, you get a job, and you buy a house and a white picket fence. Man, that shit is not reality these days.
No,
period. Hey, man, I own a house right now, and it is too expensive for me to move.
Yeah, and I think the big difference is okay. Let me think how to say this. All right, so I think Gen Z has a real problem, right? And I think it's partially their fault, but I think that they were lied to.
What's their real problem?
Their problem is that they have this expectation of what life should be.
Yeah,
and
work 20 hours a week and get paid for 40.
And I know, but what I'm saying is where did they get that information from?
Probably they didn't get that information from anywhere. What happened is they for real, they were like, all right, if you're the third kid or the younger brother to a older kid, right? You have an older sibling, and they constantly get in trouble, and they pave the way for you with your parents, because you get to observe them, and you look at them and you go, hey, Johnny over here, I'm not going to do that. I know when I can sneak out of the house when I can. Like, oh, that was stupid for him to steal the car. I mean, so the older brother makes all the mistakes, and they see these mistakes being made, and they're like, shit, man, I'm not doing that. this is the idea they got. They have access to more information and more observations through the internet than any generation in history.
Right.
Right? They have access to more information than any generation in history. We agree on that.
But they also haven't been set up to leverage that.
No, I look, it's not about leveraging. What I'm saying is, let me get through this part. So they got to a point where they started looking at all this and they go, "Hey, you know what? We're actually have zero desire to work our tails off for our entire lives to just have a little bit of retirement in the bank when we die," right? So they're in this kind of like self-enlightenment stage where life is not all about work to them. And that's great, man. There is a lot I can connect with this generation. Like there's millennials are kind of, we're stuck in between both generations, right? We understand both. I understand that. I get that. You don't want to just work for a company your entire life that doesn't really honor you. You're just kind of an employee number to them.
Yep.
And then you retire, and 10 years later you get cancer and die. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was like, what is it for? So my point is, they got it from observing 2 generations before them doing it, right? And having that issue.
Yeah.
So I think what we really, it's not whose fault it is or what's going to happen. It's what are they going to do about it? Because eventually they are going to be the ones that are in control and taking the reins.
Yep.
And I almost feel like they are the generation that enjoys shouting from the other side of the fence, "Hey, y'all screwed this up. You've left us shit. We don't have anything. It's all your fault."
Yeah.
Well, eventually they're going to have the power to be able to control it. And I'm afraid they're going to have zero skills to be able to handle what's coming to them.
Yeah. No,
Which is a shit show, by the way. I'm not going to lie. It is. It's a complete shit show. The economy, climate, all that. Hey, it's a shit show coming their way.
It is.
Hands down.
But what do you tell someone who is Gen Z to help them understand what's going on? Like, what do you think, how do you rework their reality in a way that they can understand like whether or not the situation's fair or whether or not the situation is right? Like, this is the situation you're in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, how do you move out of that situation?
Yeah, I think I mean, so there's several factors that you would have to hit on. First off, there's the whole economy side, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the social structures that we have going on.
Your mic is kind of in your face.
Oh, social structures, thanks. And stuff that we have going on. And then there's the climate. I mean, you would have to break down all of these factors. Each one of these are individual conversations, right? So yeah. I think with any good generation, you have to there is wisdom imparted to you from your parents, even when you don't want to hear it. There's wisdom imparted to you from your grandparents, even when you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? So I think listening to at least some of these lessons, right, that these older generations have been through and gone through and saying, "Hey, we screwed this up. You know, I get that. I'm sorry. We have screwed this up. This is not how y'all want to do things anymore.
Yeah.
We're passing the torch to you." And that falls on us too. There's this, us and this older generation have zero desire to pass the torch to what they feel like is a bunch of sniveling, lazy idiots.
Right.
Right. Which is, I mean, this is the problem with talking about generations. Does that exist in Gen Z? Absolutely. 1,000%. Talking in generalizations is tough.
Yeah.
I don't think that this entire generation is bad. They have a bunch of great ideas. And then the next step is the reverse. It's actually finding your voice and standing up for your voice.
Right.
And standing up for what you believe in and saying, "Hey, this is what is important to us. And I think they're doing it. I think honestly, they do a pretty good job of that. It's the listening part that they have a hard time with.
And I think one thing I see that is a huge, that's not really a problem, but like narrowing your focus on what you can directly affect versus focus on things you have no control over. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Like, yeah, you're right. This generation and some of our generation have really found a voice and have learned how to talk really loud. But a lot of times it's about things that you don't have control over. And when you narrow down your focus to actionable things, you'd be surprised how much of a difference you can actually make versus just talking.
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer just because you scream it louder doesn't make it more true.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like this generation, some Gen Z, sometimes that's their problem. They seem to just scream louder instead of actually trying to break it down. And this is everybody's problem right now. Nobody, if just a tad bit of empathy.
Yeah.
Right? Gen Z to Gen X and Gen X to Gen Z and millennials in between, there is just a time where you have to sit down, listen to each other. And I mean, actually listen, which people don't do anymore. Sit down, listen to each other, and have an honest, open conversation without pointing fingers and belittling. And this is politics. This is religion. This is anything in life. People have to stop shouting at each other and getting so angry over stuff. Yep. I think if people would just sit down and talk to their neighbor, and neighbor is just a euphemism for anybody, right? I'm just saying anybody out there. If you would just sit down and talk to your neighbor and try to understand and hear them out, I think people would understand that we have way more in common than what we think. And I think Gen Z and Gen X have way more in common than they think.
I think so too.
There was a time, dude, Gen X that was from the baby boomers, they were handed their, they were the hippies, man. Yeah. They were the ones trying to go out and, change and Vietnam War protesting, Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff. And the military industrial complex. And so I think they would find that they have more in common than they think. I think my disconnect for me personally is some of the issues that Gen Z decides to find important and try to hold up. Social issues are really important to them.
Right.
I guess they feel they can't control the economic situation, so maybe that's what they're doing. They're choosing social situations. So where does that leave us, right? So if you're a Gen Zer and you're so angry because you think there's this massive disconnect between you and the X, and that is a two-way street, is it possible? I mean, is this generation doomed? They are who they are. This is just who they are. Yeah. Do you think that it is already, as a whole, this generation is what it is?
No, I don't. And I think I've seen it even with myself. And like who I was whenever I was 20 is way different than who I am now.
Well, what is the average Gen Zer? What let's see, they were born from, I've already forgot. Dude,
it was 97 to 2013.
So 97 to 2013. Okay. Yeah. So they're in that, the youngest, so the bell curve is 18?
Mm-hmm. Everything below 27 is.
So you think the average Gen Zer is 18, 19?
I would probably say so. I think that's about right.
18 to 20.
Yeah, 18 to 20.
Voting age.
Mm-hmm. And I think just in general, as you get older, you realize a lot more as you move on, right? And I don't think they're like just screwed in their situation. I do think that right now it's just difficult, and getting through this is going to take a little bit longer. Is about it. I think it's a perspective change that needs to happen, not so much an issue with like the world around us.
So, do you think this applies to foreign cultures, or is this just American culture? Do you just feel this way about American culture? Do you think?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me neither.
I have spent very little time abroad.
Oh no, I mean,
Yeah,
I've
and-
never crossed the pond,
Yep.
so I wouldn't know as far as are other countries having this shame. I'm sure, right? I
Yeah.
think it's because it's a technology issue mostly. It's just they're all experiencing the same external factors that our kids are.
Yeah. Well, and Haley brings up a good point here where she was like, she says these are like one of the first big like helicopter parent generations, which I don't know is necessarily true, but I understand the idea behind it.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. One thing I see in this generation coming into the workforce is a lot of their decision making skills is like lacking. And I think it's out of fear, right? They're scared to mess up. And I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised, it's okay to mess up, right? If you screw up, fix it. You know, don't linger on a problem. Right. And if you're scared of failure because you don't know the consequences, it can be super scary.
I think you just hit on it there. I don't think it's a fear of failure. I think it's just they've never failed because they've never had to fail, right? I think it goes back to what Haley was saying with helicopter parents and participation trophies. For real. And I mean, you get into that situation where moms and dads or their kids I'm raising 2 kids. So it's I mean, it's hard to fight. I mean, it is. The helicopter parent thing is kind of hard to fight, but you got to let your I think millennials were the last generation of kids to hey, get your ass outside and play and don't come back for 8 hours.
And I would say even toward the end of the millennial generation, it was not the same as the 80s. I think there was
I was in the very beginning, so I'm right there in that cusp, right? So that's I very much had that childhood.
Yeah.
Like no seatbelts. I remember my friends personally didn't smoke, but like smoking in a car with the windows up. Now look, that stuff is bad. Yes, I'm not saying that made me a better person because my friends' parents smoked with the windows rolled up.
Yeah,
that's just the kind of crap that happened, right? No car seats and that's what this is the thing that gets me on social media is you start saying these posts of I never wore a helmet as a kid wearing a bike. And I'm just fine, and it's like okay,
it's like you're not, but okay.
I mean, that is not what made you tough, right? Just because you grew up in a generation that didn't wear a bike helmet. I mean, there is something to be said. Gen Z is really good. Look, human beings are really good at adapting to their environment.
They are,
and Gen Z is adapted to their environment, and we adapted to our environment, and it's just different. We're more social than Gen Z. We know how to interact. Just like Kayla was saying, they don't know how to handle conflict at all. They're terrible. Now, you give them a keyboard and a screen, and there's some freaking massive keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
But the only way they either know is to like shut down or scream at somebody.
Yeah.
That is the only way.
Like,
go ahead.
I think I know with my kids at least, I try to give a lot of leeway because I like to think that my kids are capable, right? And I know there are people that don't like the way that I raise my kids, because I give them so much leeway. But I don't know if I'm wrong for that because I feel like kids are way more capable than we give them credit for, and there's so much learning that happens in the early years.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope that I don't want to dive down.
That's true.
I mean, simply because, look, man, I'm like I said, I'm raising kids, and I knew better than before I had kids to look at somebody and say how they were raising their kids, whether it's right or wrong. I would never tell anybody.
No,
short of mental and physical abuse. You raise your kids how you want, right?
Yeah.
I mean, abuse is not good, clearly. But I mean, Is it all the parents' fault? Probably not. Do we? I mean, there's so many social factors going on, and what is right or wrong with Gen Z. And I honestly don't think there's anything terribly wrong. I think it's just different, and people don't. We fear what we don't understand, and we tend to blame things. Like you're not like me, and it's so we start. Everybody's kind of starting to point fingers instead of trying to understand each other. Like I was saying, X and millennials are more social just because we had to be, right?
Yeah.
That was, we didn't have the internet, and it came on later in life after we had already developed our social skills. Well, we aren't as tech savvy or as, like, I think, genuinely speaking, as sensitive to maybe some social issues as some of these is.
Yeah.
I mean, that is their whole thing, right? And I think one good thing that I really like to see is they're also, I think this generation is really kind of starting to figure out that bullying is a problem. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
kids are mean as shit, right?
They're
I mean,
super mean.
They're so mean,
Dude,
right?
13-year-olds are the worst human beings on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
They're pure evil.
It's something weird how those hormones get to you. But I think they're starting to figure out that this may not be, it's not cool to be a bully, right?
Yeah.
And maybe this is the first generation we're seeing that we're starting to see a push in the right direction for that.
There was also a weird thing, at least for me when I was growing up. Like, we picked on each other, and like people would probably call it bullying, but those were my friends, right? Like, there's a difference between someone who is my friend picking on something that I may be like inept at or socially inept at, all right, and compared to a stranger on the internet doing the same thing. And I think that although, like, I think bullying is a real problem, but I think friendly criticism and pestering is not that big.
No. All right,
Okay.
so there's a difference. No, there's absolutely a difference, and I think your friends, people you call friends,
Yes.
they are your social mirror. They
Yes.
are the ones that are showing you back what's acceptable in society, and they're there to tell you when it is and when it's not. You got to have those friends like that.
Oh yeah.
Because that's how you were going to learn your way through the world, right? Because once you get to it, you hit puberty.
Yeah.
Emotion, I mean, hormones, all of that. After that, you are no longer getting your social structure from your parents. That's done. It's all from your peers.
It's all from your peers.
Where it becomes bullying is when there's malintent. It's from people that you don't consider friends. They're doing it to try to hurt you, to bring you down. And my big issue, and I've been saying this for years, the bullying, we got bullied as kids, no doubt. Maybe even more harsh than what kids get now. I don't know. Here's the difference. We went to school.
Yep.
We got bullied.
Yep.
For 4 or 5 hours. Whatever. You're a bully. Everybody had a bully most of the time. And if you didn't have a bully, you were the bully.
Yeah, you were the bully if you were getting bullied.
So you come home, right?
Yeah.
And then you have your friends on your street. You have the people. You have your kids. You have your activities. You spend the next 6 hours with people that like you and reinforce you and build you back up.
Yep.
For the next 5 shitty hours you're going to have at school and be bullied.
Yep.
It doesn't work like that today.
Well, and you
come home and you get bullied your entire day.
Yes. And there's also the deal, if you had that same friend structure at school, right? A lot of times they had your back. A lot of times it wasn't you in isolation taking on a bully, where I think it is a lot now.
Yeah, that's probably a good point too.
And I think maybe one of the big issues is the social, like, in-person socialization. Like, we don't, like, kids, I don't think people have it like maybe me and you had it.
Okay, say that again.
I think in-person socialization, okay?
Okay.
Where me and you were kind of forced into that because, I mean, we didn't have the social media. We didn't have, like, I didn't get a cell phone until I was 18. Like, you literally just rode to your friend's house and knocked on the door. Like,
I mean, you make it sound like we did. I mean, we had telephones.
We had telephones, yes.
Right. I mean, but yeah, no, I mean, that kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We were socialized. We had to be socialized. We had to learn the verbal and nonverbal cues that come with communication and how to communicate and how to listen. And it's so funny because I think so many people, even our generation, is falling into this trap. You tend to type something that you would never say to somebody's face.
Dude, totally.
You know, and I think that's the problem, is that ability to be able to filter out when you're face to face with somebody, some things that your brain tells you, I probably don't want to say this.
Yes.
Right? Because there could be negative consequences. Whatever those negative consequences are, a person may hit me, they may kick me in the balls, they may stab me. I mean, whatever it may be.
As a kid, as a boy kid in our friend group, the threat of violence was always real.
Always real. It had to be.
Like the consequences
right. It was like
you said.
It was like a pride of lions being raised. We would eat each other.
Yeah.
So what does Haley say here? Hey, they can't have an in-person conversation, but give them the phone and they will text for hours. It's exactly.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm terrible at texting. Like, I'm probably the worst at texting.
Oh, well, we don't do it all right, so they use it as forms
of primary conversation.
Well, all right. And Haley, I think a lot of that has to do with, too, we're raising in conversation, real-time conversation, you have to be quick on your feet. You have to think. You don't have 20, 30 seconds to have a witty reply.
Yep.
You know,
you learn to couch some words. You learn to
right, and you pick up on things. And I don't know about y'all, but I've almost lost friendships and girlfriends over misinterpreted texts.
Yeah.
There have been fights started between me and another person because they misinterpreted what I said in a text.
And it's because you can't read the facial cues. Like, so much of human conversation
there's
inflections and social cues.
Yes, and like nonverbal cues and body language in the face. And I mean, that's what I'm talking about. These are things that, you know, you have to learn, and they're not learning these things. That's how you interact. I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm getting picked on.
Zach definitely struggled with the written communication about a year ago. Yeah. Well, he said he was bad at texting. So
I'm really
he
horrible
warned you.
at it.
He warned you.
All right, so let's move away from this a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on one other thing.
Okay.
And I got a bit of a clip here to kind of give.
All right, you got a clip. All right.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, you're gonna piss off the libs with Ben Shapiro.
I'm probably gonna piss off the conservatives, honestly, on this one.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. All right. So this is Ben Shapiro talking about. This was way back when the auto unions were in their negotiations.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I'm not even sure if that ever got resolved. I don't know. But this
hour work week? What?
Yeah.
I'm 6% pay increase over 4 years. A 32-hour work week. 32-hour work week? What? I'm sorry. Who has what? I mean, if I may not be a math genius, but a 32-hour work week is an 8-hour day, 4 days a week. 32.
Here's one thing you need to do before you buy anything online.
All right, so we can actually stop it there. That's all right.
I hinted on this earlier.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the 40-hour work week?
I think it's important in some areas, and I think it's completely useless in others.
And this is kind of gets back to what I was talking about.
What do you do? What is your job? What is your job? Like, explain to me.
Okay, he's talking about the auto unions. He's talking about auto workers. All right. They build cars. Like, they're working on assembly line. That's their job.
So, assembly line worker?
Assembly line worker. We'll start there.
Important. It's important.
Okay, so here's and this goes back to one of my previous arguments.
Okay.
Is The 40-hour work week was set when one person could work in a household and work 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in a situation where that 40 hours is now 80 hours. All right.
All right, you already said this, yeah. I see
Yeah.
I mean, in a dynamic of a family,
In the dynamic of a family.
having two people out of the house, that math still doesn't stand. I don't like the comparison that you use there.
Why is that?
Because
Explain to
I'm,
me why.
Because we're talking about an individual.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about a household. We're talking about a 32-hour work week for one individual, right?
Yes.
And so you keep saying that now because there's two incomes, you're using a money analysis to describe time, and I don't agree with that. And I don't agree that it's one person working 32 hours. Now that is okay. Now if you want to talk about income, you're correct.
Yes.
If it is no longer $60,000, no longer supports a single family of four.
Yes.
It is now 120. That is doubled.
Yes.
I will give you that.
Yes.
But when it comes to time of hours, work hours, only one individual is working 32 hours. That has not become 80 hours. Only one individual is.
Right. I'm referring to. All right. You have a couple problems here. Okay. You have people complaining about the lack of family institution, and they say that is the problem with our society. And on the other foot, they say that both people in the house need to work 40 hours a week.
No, they don't say anything. That is just how it is. That is the price of things. Over the last 50 years, it has been intentionally placed that way to put women back in the workforce because they figured, hey, everybody can make more money this way, right?
Yeah.
I think the people saying that the family, I don't think they had anything to do with why we have two family incomes.
No, I agree
why we
with
need
you.
two family incomes.
I agree with you on that point. I think that is I'm referring to the argument of the older generations of like what should be done. Like you can't complain about two things that conflict with each other and not realize that something has to change. Okay. So I have worked jobs where I worked 80 hours in a week, right? I have come to love my personal time. Okay. I love my personal time. I try not to do anything that has to do with anybody else on my personal time. Okay. And I think that is healthy. Like we've come to a point in society where I think it should get easier for people over time. But we have a system that will always milk out the maximum, right? And this is a problem where employees have to stand up. This isn't a problem. Companies are going to do it. I don't think the companies are doing anything wrong, right? But I think that we should consider what we call a work week. All right.
So do you think you should get paid for hours you don't work?
Gosh, no.
Okay, that's what they were asking for.
No.
They were asking to work 32 hours a week, but still get paid for 40.
Okay. That's what they're asking for. And the company has every right to tell them no. Now,
yeah,
I think that they have a strong argument for we only want to work 32 hours in a week.
That's fine. You only want to work, then you only get paid for 32 hours.
Yeah.
Don't ask for 32, and then that was what I always had the issue with. I don't care about you working a shorter week, 4-hour work week, fine, whatever. Yeah. But make them 12s.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get paid for 40, work 40.
Yeah.
Work 12s.
Well, and I think the big deal is or
10s, whatever you want to do.
What that changes is, though, if you put that in place, now anything over 32 hours is overtime.
Well, I mean, then you can't. Yeah. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not paying you overtime.
Yeah. And
I don't have to as a company.
Yeah. Like, I think.
Well, I don't think. Okay. First off,
I
don't think the federal government is ever going to. I mean, we're stuck in there's a lot of changes that have to happen to change the 40-hour work week and the laws and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if the company wants to say, all right, hey, yeah, we'll let you work 32 hours, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Man, look, I think a lot of this comes down to production based versus, first project based. All right.
Right.
So Dude, if I'm in a project based business and I am employed there and I can knock out my project in 2 days,
Yes.
right? Then the rest of my time should be for me.
Oh, I agree. This is why
If
love
I can
contract
get
work.
my daily work done in 3 hours, then the rest of my time is my time.
Exactly. And this is why whenever I do work, when I can, I always do contract work. Because I'm not getting paid for my time. I'm getting paid for my productivity. Right? All right. So
What professions can't do 32-hour work weeks?
let's see here.
Like I mean, obviously ours.
Yeah.
We're never gonna have a 32-hour
Yeah.
work week, whatever, and that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
we chose that, and that's fine. That's not
Which
what
we
I'm
have a
saying.
weird schedule anyway.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing all in itself. But I mean, I think any assembly line job could go to 32 hours. The company would have to hire more people, but if you're not paying for the 40 hours, it doesn't really change your payroll because you're still paying for the same amount of hours.
I'd have to do the math on that. I don't know if that
Yeah.
adds up.
You probably get increased costs in benefits, right? Depending on how the benefits are negotiated.
Well, you would still have to, yeah. So, what is it? 35 hours is a full time. I don't even remember
Yeah.
what qualifies you as a full time employee anymore. I think it's 35. Maybe it's 30.
Let's see here.
30.
30 hours. Yep.
Yeah, so you'd still be a full-time employee anyways. You wouldn't even have to change the laws
Yeah.
for that, for them to be able to cover you for benefits and workman's comp and things like that. So all right, I'm glad you brought up this auto. That was always my biggest thing. People that know me, especially my wife, will tell you that I value, there's nothing more in this world than I value more than my time. My time is extremely important to me. I understand its value. I always have. I don't chase money. I chase time.
Yeah.
That is my driving factor.
Yeah.
Is time to be able to do what I want when I want.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand wanting to work shorter work weeks. Right. You chose a production-based business.
Yeah.
That requires you to go in. You have to go there and work there.
Yeah.
And put something together. That's fine, but you chose that.
Yep.
Right? That was the job that you chose to go out and get, educate yourself in, and try to keep and grow in. And I'm proud of you. Thank you for having a job. Keep it up. Keep working hard.
Yep.
But it is ridiculous
Okay.
to think that you are going to get paid for 8 hours you don't work.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is ridiculous. That was a bad argument on their part in my opinion. So the 40-hour work week was set in 1940 by Congress.
Okay?
Okay. I think there's two questions here. Should Congress even set a work week? And then should Congress change the work week?
So, I mean, I think you have to have. I'm not sure. I'm not a historian, so this is where I want to tread very lightly here because this could come back to bite us in the ass. I'm sure it had something to do with regulating how companies were working employees.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because there was a time that companies were absolutely taking advantage of their workers. They could have been working them 60 hours a week and not paying them overtime.
And I think
right?
a lot of companies would still do that today if there weren't things in place.
Yeah, it's all about profits and for the shareholders. The company only has a responsibility to the shareholders. That is it. They don't have a responsibility to the employees.
Yes.
And it often rears its ugly head every now and then, and you see it, and employees are treated poorly. So I think the government stepped in for some regulation to say, hey, you know what? You can't necessarily drive your employees to the ground.
Yeah.
They're only going to work 40 hours a week, or you owe them more money.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, you got to give them some breaks every now and then, maybe. And so you see what I'm saying? So I think that's probably where it steps in. Do I think it's important for the government to regulate the work week? Yes, for that. Because if
Yes.
you let capitalism go unchecked, it will abuse the employee every time.
Yep. I agree. I do think that maybe it is time to change the work week, though. Like, it's been since 1940.
I'm gonna disagree. I think what you're saying is, I don't think you're saying it's time to change the work week. I think you're saying it's time to change how we view work.
Yes,
What
I
is
am.
work? Okay, so it is time to change this idea that you have to come into the office, click in, sit at a desk, which is all computer work now for the most part, unless you're in a production-based or skill-based industry. It is all computer work, all shit you could do from home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, studies have proven since COVID that working strictly from home isn't necessarily the answer.
Yes.
Because production out of the employee, albeit in the very beginning, is good, but you start to see a decline. I think a lot of that is because we're social creatures,
Yes.
right? We want to be around people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hybrid schedule is the ultimate future.
Yes.
All right, so we get into a situation where companies that can work, that don't necessarily always have to be in the office. If you can have a hybrid schedule, that is the ticket to happiness. Every 2 days a week, you are required to come into the office and check in with there'll be flex managers, right? So it'll be a different manager in every day of the week, whatever it may be. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not a workplace specialist. But you come in, you report. You work your 5, 6, 8 hours, whatever you want to make them work, right?
Right.
And then you go home, and then the next day you work from home, whatever it may be. And so a month in advance, you come in and you go, all right, I'm requiring, hey Zach, I need you to come in. Let's try it this way.
Okay.
Hey Zach, I need you to come in 10 out of the 30 days this month.
Okay.
All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to get on your calendar, and then I want you to pick the 10 days that you're going to come in. I don't care if you come in 5 and 5. You work 2 weeks, and then your last 2 weeks you do from home, whatever it may be. And so you pick in a month in advance. You have a month in advance to go through and figure out your schedule. Okay, I want this day off. All right, I'm going to come into the office on this day. I think this is the future. And I think that allows people, because now I have given the employee their work schedule power back. I've empowered you to choose your work schedule.
Yes, and I think that's huge. I do think there's one issue with that model. All right.
Okay.
I think one of the big problems that businesses are having is the lack of cohesiveness within the culture of the companies. Okay. I think that, yes, you let people pick their own schedules, but you also have to have mandatory days where everyone is in the office, where you have to interact with the people that you're actually working with. Okay.
That's not a terrible idea. Maybe you do that twice. I mean, okay, yeah. I would agree with that. Sure, yeah. So you can put a face to a name. So somebody, they're just not some... I mean, now with Zoom meetings and stuff like that, I mean, we get a lot of that done where you can get some face-to-face time, but that's not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But now, here's the only problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a company, I'm on a hybrid schedule. I'm only going to pay for office space that will fit a third of my employees at the time. I'm not paying for an office space that's going to be 66% empty
all the time.
Most of the time. Every day.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're reducing your office space to be able to cover cost. I mean, that's where it makes it cost effective
Right.
for somebody to not, and I'm an employee. If I don't have to drive to work every day, imagine what the commute to work would be like for people that have to go every day.
Yeah.
If nobody is traveling, there's no more rush hour. Dude, it would solve so many problems.
It would solve a lot of problems. I think what would be interesting to see is if you wouldn't get multiple companies housing the same areas and they set the days that they have the areas, right?
Okay.
Like, I think that could be interesting.
So Haley says here that this is actually interesting. There is
Mm-hmm.
no federal law that says you have to have breaks. It's only a state by state basis. That doesn't.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you're in HR, so I'm going to trust you on that. But that doesn't sound right. I'm just going to say it doesn't sound right. How does OSHA not mandate breaks? I guess that's safety and health. So it may
they
not
would-
mandate break. Maybe it's the equal.
I don't know. That's a rough one.
Edu-
I bet you.
Educate me,
I bet
Haley.
you what it
Educate
is-
me.
Yeah. I bet you what it is if you have a company that works across multiple states, they probably institute the strictest rules of the states that they operate in across the whole company.
I don't know. Maybe.
That would be my guess.
Look, man, I would love to. All right, Haley, I have a question for you. If you're still listening, would you be able to work a hybrid schedule as HR? That is my question for you. I know we can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, technically, our job is a trade, right? You know, we're a trade of many talents and many skills that you have to learn. But electricians are always going to have to go to work, right? Plumbers, HVAC. You know, you work on trains, planes, like people that have to actually service work. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, service work. You got to go in, right? It's pretty much only this business model office worker that can go.
Well, in a lot of the trade jobs too, you see their schedules. A lot of times the pay around those schedules changes based on the hours, right? So like I know for me, whenever I was doing a lot of electrical work, I was on call 24/7. All right.
Oh, you did emergency calls?
I did emergency calls,
Oh, I
right?
didn't know that.
But if you called me at 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday, you're not getting the same rate. I'm
Oh,
making,
no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
making
and-
it worth my time.
And
going
I
in.
don't think anybody would expect that.
And I think the big deal is I think people being able to dictate their hours is super important to a certain degree. And that if a company is going to ask them to operate outside those hours, they need to have the mechanisms in place to be compensated for it.
Sure.
I know
And that compensation is agreed on before you work the hours.
before you work. Like, yes.
Whether it's monetary, whether it's more time off, whether it's benefits, whatever it may be, that should be an agreed upon thing prior to employment,
Yes.
right? And if it does change, there needs to be some type of bargaining tool
Yeah.
that you have. I'm not saying in the form of a union. I'm just saying as an employee,
Yeah.
if it changes.
I think a lot of people mess up by not arguing their contracts before they get employed, especially for some of these salary jobs. I think people get excited about getting a job and then they don't properly negotiate when it comes to their salaries and what it looks like on overtime and what it looks like when you're asking for above and beyond the job title.
Yeah, dude. If you go from hour to salary, and you're not asking for $30,000 to $40,000 pay increase, you're
Yeah.
selling yourself short.
Way short.
Because
'Cause
you're
they're
going to
gonna
work
ask
the
you.
hours. You're going to work the hours. There is no hours when you go salary. Like there is no overtime. Like you've agreed upon that in saying I'm willing to work however many hours.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. That was the big thing in food service. When you went from, it was the biggest scam ever, and I'm sure it's still happening to this day. You would be a bartender and you would work 30 hours a week, and you would make 40 grand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just a nice round number. Whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You were working 30 hours a week, working 40 grand. And you know, now it's not because of cards and stuff, but back then it was mostly cash. And
Yeah.
so not only that, it was tax free.
Yeah.
Right. So the management would come in and go, "Hey, you're a really good employee. We think that you have this, you know, potential." And they flash this manager thing in front
Yeah.
of you, and they go, "We're going to pay you $50,000." And you're like, "Holy cow, $50,000! That's awesome! Oh, and I'm going to get benefits. Dope! I can go
Yeah.
see a doctor.
Yeah.
Awesome!" And the next thing you know, you're working 70 hours a week,
Yep.
working for $50,000.
Yep. And then you don't
You're
even
working 40 hours more a week.
Yeah, you don't even have time to go to the doctor.
No, you can't schedule it because you're working every day. And see, that's the thing. That's the salary trap that a lot of people fall into. Is you can just almost double the amount of work that you're gonna have to do and the hour. There is no end of the work day.
Yeah.
So you were going down this 40-hour work week. So you think it's what should it change to?
I think a 36-hour work week, like mandated by Congress, is probably okay. You shouldn't limit the number of hours people should be able to work. Like if somebody wants to work 40 hours a week, let them, right? But I think as a society, we should set the work week at 36 hours. Anything over 36 hours should probably be overtime.
Why 36?
It's an incremental change of 1 day per week.
No, that would technically be 32.
It'd technically be 32. I mean, it would give you a half day on like 1 day a week. Like basically what I want to do, what I would like to see is people get control of their own life a little bit more.
And I think you get that in a hybrid schedule.
Yeah, you do get that in a hybrid schedule. So
I don't think it's, like I said, in production based, I don't think you get that.
You got 36 there. A lot of nurses already do 312s and it's considered full time.
Sure. I mean, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to work. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not. I don't know. Look, man. I saw something the other day that said it was a news article. I want to say it was on the Today Show, and it was Savannah, and she was like, "Have you gone to McDonald's lately and paid $20 for a Big Mac, a fries, and a Diet Coke or whatever?" It's like, yeah. All right, coming up next, the astronomical rise in the cost of fast food. It's like, well, no shit.
Yeah.
Right? We said it 5 years ago when we were like, oh, you're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour to flip a burger. Guess what?
Yeah.
McDonald's is not going to eat the cost of that.
Nope.
They're going to turn around and raise the price of everything 20%.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and they were like, oh, you mean we can raise it 40% and get away with it and call it supply chain issues? And guess what? Inflation went 7%, like reached 7% at its max or whatever, and now we've seen this massive increase in prices. Guess what? Shit's not going to get cheaper.
It's not getting cheaper.
Corporations were showing some of the most profits they had ever seen, and it's because people were like, well, I guess this is just what we're going to pay. And now it's become the norm.
It has, and I think it goes back even further to the 2008 crisis, when you had people losing their jobs, and you had 35, 45-year-old people who had degrees getting these jobs at places where normally high school workers had them, right? So now you have people who are relying on these fast food server jobs to feed their family, whereas 5 years before then it was a 16-year-old who was working on the weekends or whatever. Like there was a fundamental change in fast food workers during that time.
I was part of the service industry during then, and that absolutely happened. Not saying it didn't. It wasn't as common as people may think, but those people left.
Yeah.
They left the industry, okay? They supported their families, and then when the economy came back in a couple years, bounced back, they were gone like that, okay? So it wasn't like they came in and revolutionized the service industry. That's not what it was. That is not why people, this is a slippery slope. I'm not going to talk politics, but I think what happened is everybody started saying, if I work at McDonald's and I work 40 hours a week, I should be able to support a family of 4 on a McDonald's salary.
Right.
And a McDonald's salary, 40-hour work week it's never designed for that.
No, it's not.
It's not designed to
It's not-
support.
I don't
that,
even
man.
know if
Sorry,
it's designed
just
to
not.
have full-time job, like besides like managers. Like
Right.
I'm not even sure those businesses were designed for full-time workers.
I don't want it to sound like I'm talking bad about people having a job. That is not it. I'm super happy you have a job, and I do think you should be compensated. I think you should be compensated fairly for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not brain surgery.
Yeah.
You're flipping a burger and you're typing in something on a little computer, and guess what?
Yeah.
You suck at it.
You do suck at it.
When's the last time you went to a fast food place and it was decent?
It's been a long time.
Long time.
And I know I shouldn't.
It's because they
but
don't
that's
give a shit. We paid them more and they care less.
They care less. And I don't know why, but whenever I get my order and it's wrong from a fast food place, it makes me more angry than anything else on the face of the planet. And I don't know why.
It's
but
not
yeah.
difficult, man. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not difficult. There's a reason why they don't require a high school degree to do that. There's
Yeah.
a reason why they hire 14, 15-year-olds is
Mhm.
because you don't have to be super intelligent to work at these places.
Yeah.
You know what it does take? Effort.
Effort. Yep.
It takes effort. And we paid them more and they're doing, I don't, all right, look.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, another thing that we're not looking at here is in 2020 when COVID hit and with the Great Resignation, a lot of these employees stood up at a lot of these jobs that we're talking about, service jobs mainly, and said, you know what? I'm talented. I've been trying to leave this place for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, now's the time.
Yep.
I'm going to sit at home for the next year or two. I'm going to educate myself,
Yep.
and I'm moving on to something different.
Yeah.
Or hey, now is the time for me to finally put in that job application where I was trying to go. I'm done with, John Doe's bullshit.
Yeah.
And they moved on. And I think what happened was we saw a massive void left in talented service workers.
Yes.
And now we're reaping the benefits with all the idiots.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. Haley, you still have not educated me. Could you do your HR job, if you're still listening, could you still do your HR job from home? Is that something you feel like you have to go in every day? And I'll ask that, so when we wrap this up in chat, do you think you could do your job from a hybrid schedule? What is your ideal schedule? Is it, do you like going into the office? Just shit the bed on me there. How weird was that? Do you like going into the office every day? Or are you more of a hybrid, or would you prefer to work from home every day? Could you work from home? I personally could not work from home.
I couldn't either. I'd be so unproductive.
I have pretty poor time management skills.
Yep.
I'm a hobby guy, and so all I would do is be constantly
Yep.
surrounded by my hobbies,
Yep.
and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do that." I mean, I'd rather go fishing than work on this
Yeah.
report. And no, I have to. I would have to go into an office every day.
Yeah.
Or like my wife was talking about, if she had a job where she worked at home all the time, we would have to build her an office. There would
Yeah.
have to be an office space. She would have to get up and go, and she still enjoys getting up and going to an office and going out and getting away. Like, there is something to be said, not making your rest place or your place of comfort the same as your work, right?
Yeah.
There is some mentality to go into that. There's some psychology behind it, to where if you just build an office shed out in the back and you just put on some clothes and you walk out to that office, you're still working from home. You get home, but you still psychologically get to go into an office, separate yourself from your comfort space, and not combine the two.
Yeah. And we're kind of running out of time here, but like one thing.
Oh, I will ramble all morning.
I know. One thing I would say, if you are in a job that, or if you're a business owner and you have one of these jobs where you can't have remote work, okay? Try, like, coming from someone who has had employees and who's run several, like, I didn't have like a lot of employees, but one thing that we did is I let the employees decide their hours. Like my rule was you work 8 hours in a day. I don't care what 8 hours you work. Unless we had a job that we specifically had to be there at a certain time, I didn't care what 8 hours you worked. If you wanted to come in at 9 in the morning and, leave at 7 or 6, and then, or if you wanted to come in at 6 in the evening and work through the night, it didn't bother me. And if you bid a job or you have a job that you're billing for 8 hours of work and your employees get it done in 5, let them go home with pay. You will see a crazy uptick in like employee morale and their support of your business.
Is there not something else that they could be doing though? Isn't there always something to be done in a trade?
Yeah.
So you're always stacking jobs, right? Like what if I get that job done in 5 hours, then I can send them to another job and get them working on that for those 3 hours, right?
You can, but what ends up happening is that employee knows what you made on that job. He knows how much money he made you, and he knows that you're sending him to another job to make him more money and not appreciating the work that he did in the time that he did it.
So now you're getting into that situation of paying people for work that they didn't do.
Well, no, they did exactly the work.
Are they hourly employees?
Yes, they're hourly employees. So I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is if you are a business owner, try this and see the morale difference.
I'm not a business owner, so yes.
Yeah, because there were a lot of jobs where I would schedule for, this isn't all day. I've got my whole day blocked off. I've got another job scheduled for tomorrow. They got done 3 hours early. I could send them to that tomorrow job, and they could get a lot of that done. And I may do that and be like, hey, these are the jobs you have scheduled for the week. If you get done a day early, you can have Friday off, right? But this is what I've scheduled out. This is what I'm billing for, right? I'm charging this customer for 8 hours of work. I'm going to let that employee take the rest of the day off with pay. I'm already getting paid for his time for that. He did a good job. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Like, it just helps employee morale and gives them a sense of pride in their work, right?
No, all that tells me as an employee is that I'm going to do a shitty job and do it fast because I know you're going to let me off work.
There's consequences for doing a bad job, right? Like, you still have to do a good job.
Okay. Okay. I once again, I've never owned a business. Don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a trade guy. I just have a feeling that just promotes. I don't know. I think it promotes people doing.
This also requires you really vet the people that you hire.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing, dude. I mean, how many of your friends are having a hard time finding good work?
That's true. That is a huge problem. If
nobody
you have
wants
a
to
crap
work,
employee,
especially labor, dude. Nobody wants to do physical labor.
They
man.
don't.
I don't blame them. I don't want to do physical labor. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I would if I had to, right? I'd break my back if I had to. It's not that I couldn't. It's not that
you don't want to.
I mean, I did as a kid. That's how I learned that I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do physical labor, then you have to sharpen other skills.
Yes.
You can't just go, "Oh, I'm a lazy piece of shit. I don't want to do anything."
Right.
Sharpen your skills. If you know, educate yourself. But use your brain more than your back.
Yeah. And I think that's, if I had a message for Gen Z, it's exactly that. It's to buckle down, be aware of your situation, and find out how to dig yourself out of it. No one's going to help you. Like, it doesn't matter how much you complain. And whether that's right or wrong, ultimately it doesn't matter.
Look, you're not making this situation worse. Nobody's saying that it's your fault. If you're a Gen Z, this is whatever. If we're going to talk directly to Gen Z, we understand that it's not your fault. Nobody's blaming you for who you are. All right. I mean, we help create that, right? But you screaming at us, blaming us for the situation that you're in is not going to make it any better. This is your problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of us don't.
You complaining about it is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to fucking do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. All right. And so stop complaining about it. And this is what Gen X is trying to tell you. Stop complaining about it. Pull
Yeah.
yourself up by the bootstraps and actually do something.
Yeah.
You being a Twitter warrior
Mm-hmm.
and typing on a keyboard or whatever it may be is not actually creating change. All it's doing is
Nope.
creating division.
It really is. And if there's one thing that you need to know is most people don't care about you, and most people don't have the time to care about you. So when you take up their time complaining about it, they're not going to be happy about it. And it's a harsh reality. It's
Gen Z, get your shit together. All right? Hey, millennials, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Gen X,
Quit being crotchety.
right? I'll be on your fucking lawn if I want to be on your lawn. Everybody, just get your shit together, man. Like, stop complaining. Both sides, all of it. I mean, that's how I'm going to end that.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, it's been a lot of fun talking to
has been
everybody
a
today.
great
Zach, I enjoy it. Once again, we have got a really busy schedule. We're going to try to hit another one of these next week.
Yep.
We hope you enjoyed the content today. It was a little all over the place, but
It
these
was.
these were kind of some of the topics that me and you enjoy talking about.
Yeah.
We're going to do a lot more of these moving in the future. So we've got some disc golf content coming up. We'll post that before we go live if that's not something you care about. But I
Yeah.
can guarantee you I'm going to talk a lot of disc golf.
Yep.
But
Because the disc golf season starts real soon.
real soon. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say, is All Stars this weekend?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, All Stars is this weekend, so we'll have a little bit of disc golf content coming up. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us today. So I guess we'll get together next time, and all right,
All right, guys.
have a good one.
Later.
Later.